Hi pageant fans! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hey Adam G! Kamusta na kayong lahat? Pasensya na kayong lahat at ngayon lang ako nakabalik mag-vlog uli as you all know what happened to me. For some of you who are truly concerned, I am now okay. I am feeling much better now sa awa ng Diyos. And part of regaining my strength is reading all your messages of love and support from some of you guys in my inboxes across all my social media platforms. Along the hate comes the love as well. So here I am slowly going back for all of you who are still believing in me. It has been a month-long reflection about myself and values in relation to what I'm still doing here. So salamat talaga sa inyo for your never-ending kindness and patience. And I just really couldn't believe it that a lot of you have been reaching out to me privately and you guys are still not giving up on me. So I'm still contemplating about making a separate content about this just to share you all my lessons and realizations. Pero pinag-iisipan ko pa kasi nga naman tapos na, 'di ba? Nangyari na lahat. But anyway, moving forward. So what did I miss in the whole month that I was resting and reflecting? Siyempre kasama pa din doon ang panonood at pagsubaybay sa pageantry. And ngayong pa-year-end na, allow me to share so many thoughts about the numerous trends that I have seen and observed in pageantry right now. And let me know if you also observe the same things after watching this. Or for some of you who still patronize my content. Or OA na naman ako sa mga observations kong ito. So I've got 5 trends that I noticed, and so here it goes. So first trend that I noticed is the slow deterioration of the production values of the finals night of these pageant organizations. Napansin nyo? One of the key factors, for me kasi one of the key factors of a pageant success has always been equated to how it mounts its production over time. And no matter how we tell non-pageant fans that the finale is only one aspect or the culminating activity or program of the entire season, it still thinks, the whole fandom around the world thinks that it is still an annual spectacle like watching an Oscar ceremony or any glamorous ceremony featuring VIPs or celebrities. Hence, there is really a huge emphasis for these pageant organizations to come out with a spectacle or with a spectacular production with great visuals and design in complementing the performances of each contestants on stage. And sadly, some of our major pageants totally disappointed us in this aspect this year. And it feels like that some of these pageant organizations have scaled down on this aspect, probably due to budget concerns. So that's why I can't help but miss the production of pageantry in the 90s and even during early 2000s, wherein we always look forward to how a stage would look like with its stunning choreography and blockings that will be taught to these contestants in the show, which we have to admit really adds to the excitement of watching the whole show. And I really hope that this is one aspect that pageant organizations would always consistently do right, because a lot of factors could arise from the disappointment of pageant fans and enthusiasts from this one. And one result that I am seeing from this disappointment is the proliferation or creation of many new pageants in the past 3 years. And it suddenly feels like creating a new pageant is a lucrative business pursuit nowadays. But if you realize or deep dive about why there are new pageants mushrooming left and right, it's because, I need to highlight this, it's because of the failure of our major international pageants to live up to fan expectations in a lot of aspects. And so we end up being disappointed with the quality of the show. And with that, having said, someone will surely have a brilliant idea how to make it better, thus leading for this person to create a new pageant altogether. And adding to the woes and compounding the problem is the lack of pre-pageant activities organized in one edition. Could also be a boon or benefit for an emerging pageant to increase its popularity among the new pageants nowadays. And so what I'm trying to say is that it's so easy for these new players to fill in the void or vacuum left by these major players in the industry. The vacuum that these major international pageants provided, yung kakulungan ng isa, definitely pupunuan ng kabila. And so we all see these new players slowly cementing its status as one of the must-watch, or if not, the must-see pageant of the year. Napapansin nyo? Pero alam nyo guys, however, as I think about it, I could not blame these major players to fall short of our expectations. And it's because of the absence of a huge budget to address this problem. There is probably not enough cash flow coming in the coffers of these pageant organizations. And the amount of money provided by these sponsors are probably still not enough to mount a grand production. So we end up with a simple and bare production on stage that pageant organizations have nowadays. Which leads me to my next point, and that is because the second trend, there are less beauty brands now and more brands now that are not associated with beauty, fashion, and lifestyle as sponsors for these pageants. Yes, I have mentioned this earlier. And it's something that I have really observed in pageantry nowadays. There seems to be less interest among mainstream beauty brands here and abroad to sponsor beauty pageants. So gone are the days when popular brands like CoverGirl Cosmetics, Clairol Herbal Essences Shampoo, Chi Hair Care, Kodak would be front and center, being featured in a lot of the pageant's activities. Now it feels like that any brand that has nothing to do or is not connected with pageantry can sponsor. And the disconnect has been very particular, has been very telling. And so it feels like whoever could give these pageant organizations the amount of money or funds to generate spending and bankroll or kaya spearhead these pageant activities could easily come in the absence of, yun nga, mainstream media, beauty brands taking interest in pageantry. So there are some quarters or some pageant fans who might question these brands' connection in enhancing or complementing the candidacies of these ladies in pageantry. And so while this is a win-win situation for both sides, these companies or brands who have nothing to do with pageantry, capitalizing on the exposure of the huge platform of pageantry, could generate for their businesses in our country or even abroad. And for these pageant organizers side naman, they are benefiting naman from the infusion of cash flows to augment their operational income. It still makes other people question about how pageantry business is being done nowadays, sometimes with the unwanted negative image or connotation of these brands attached to the name of these esteemed pageant organizations. So the question now is, how can we encourage more beauty and fashion brands in our country to promote the ideals of a modern Filipina? Moreover, how can the beauty and fashion industries be interested in the platform of pageantry in this day and age of inclusivity and women empowerment? So for me, it's also something that I'm also trying to figure it out myself at the moment. So what about you guys? Do you have any suggestions? So third trend that I'm noticing is the proliferation of online voting mechanics or contests in pageantry. In the advent of the internet, the online voting mechanics among fans has been widely used and abused to spread more awareness and engagement for a lot of pageant organizations. Because back in the day, these online voting contests would be only used in one of its special award segments in its grand finale. But over the years, it has been used, napansin nyo, as an effective tool to lure pageant fans to engage and spend for their favorite contestants in the pageant. And it has been such on a roll ever since, with pageant organizations having multiple or numerous online voting campaigns to support their candidates for a fee. There are now online vote, kasi napansin nyo naman, there is now online voting for every segment of the competition, all the way to even paying for a live stream telecast online to helping a contestant get in the top 5 or top 6, all in the guise of power voting, power fan voting, which for some hardcore pageant fans robs other contestants from advancing based on merit. Pero sa totoo lang guys, but again, I cannot blame all these pageant organizations for cashing in on this kind of gimmick or strategy, as it is also one way for them to earn additional money to help them pay for their expenses incurred in mounting a pageant. And even this aspect has become weaponized and used as a valid point if you take everything from a business point of view nowadays. And I hope these online voting exercises shouldn't be abused too much and just be limited to segments where it could be seen as an equalizer or a factor to equalize the level playing field, such as an entry to gain a slot in the semifinals, or used even for a fun game, or if not, support for a pageant organization's numerous charitable institution affiliations, right? So, another trend that I'm also noticing, number 4, is the last-minute appointment or holding of a pageant a few days or weeks before the international competition begins. This is something that I have noticed among some of our pageant organizations in recent memory. But I do get where some of them are coming from, especially after the pandemic happened. Luckily for us in the Philippines, we seem to ace it every time we appoint or crown someone at the last minute. The formula has been tried and tested, and we can only look for Megan Young, Dindi Pajares, Samantha Bernardo, and now CJ Opiasa for inspiration. But it's also something that is a bit worrisome if you think about it. Again, lucky for us, Megan, Dindi, Samantha, and CJ all rose to the occasion and had the funds, support, and the machinery to jumpstart their respective bids in a very short time, probably given their status as a pageant veteran or a celebrity. But what if, let's say, the appointment or crowning, last-minute crowning would be done to a newbie or a lady who is inexperienced in handling pressure? Then that could definitely be a two-edged sword. Not all the time we have pageant veterans to save us at the end of the day. So we couldn't really rely on appointing or crowning a pageant veteran or celebrity to do the whole work for all of us all the time, as it always has to be a two-way street all the time. Because the ideal situation is to always start the ground running the moment the mother organization finishes its finale telecast. Laging October to December yun, diba? So, from that, take a break for a month or two for these organizations, and off they go running and organizing the next edition to ensure a smooth flow of activities within the calendar year, to give ample time for the eventual winner to prepare for her international pageant assignment. So I think a minimum of 3 months is enough from the date of the international competition to train and prepare for the contest. Because aminin talaga natin, iba talaga ang dating ng girls natin when they are prepared, mentally prepared, most especially in terms of what her international pageant organization is looking for in its winner. Doon sa minimum time of 3 months na yon, sinasabi ko guys sa inyo, not only will she be able to ask help from people to prepare for her wardrobe, Q&A, shoot for her pageant's numerous online requirements, but also at the same time take time to study the pageant itself and give her the right headspace para pagdating niya doon sa international pageant competition, she will be now ready like what a good or obedient soldier needs to do. Diba? May point ba ako? And so, we now go to my last trend that I have observed, which is dapat there should be a balance of glam and charity work for a queen's reign. I am so glad, don't get me wrong guys, I am so glad that a lot of the title holders of these big 6 pageants have been afforded the chance to travel around the world during their reign. But somehow it still feels limited or hollow if you think about it, if I think about it, especially if one pageant organization or queen wants to maximize her impact during her reign. And I hope there will also be a balance of activities in terms of what a reigning title holder can do, and not just so much about traveling to countries to help crown the representative of that particular country to the next international edition. Or just be confined to engaging in business pursuits like online selling and sponsor appearances, sponsor public appearances, but also make an impact to her community through her advocacies as well. Because it feels like when a lady wins the title nowadays, her advocacy or one of the things that she has been fighting for has been just relegated to the sidelines all of a sudden. And there is not much impact being given because we are all interested to the glitz and fanfare of a queen's journey instead. And especially at this time where one's voice matters in society, nurturing her voice in uplifting members of her society or just even her community could surely be seen as something to make pageantry relevant nowadays. A title holder could start by probably siguro one example is probably a title holder could start by asking her host country to organize forums, fora, or seminars which will allow her to talk about her advocacy more. Yes, it really feels good for a queen to be well-traveled, but it's way better if she gets to touch so many hearts along the way because after all, a beauty queen is someone who is positive, who is a positive role model in her own right. So all in all, guys, what do you think about this content? If you notice, most of the trends that I listed down here are some of the effects or the results that the world of pageantry has been slowly dying. Pageant organizations are now scrambling for funding. Everything has to be taught to ensure, from a business standpoint, to ensure the survival of its existence or operations. And despite having so many new pageants emerging, the fact remains pageantry is already dying, and the number of pageants sprouting left and right do not ensure its longevity. What these new organizations are doing is just filling in the void and gap left by these older players. And everyone is still in denial that pageantry is still alive. And for sure, a new set of trends will emerge in the next few years with a continuous decline of interest and popularity among viewers worldwide. And I hope and pray that somebody could reverse the tide. Hopefully with the suggestions that I shared here, who knows? All these little things, if done eventually right, will make this endeavor a meaningful and worthwhile pursuit that lasts and withstands the test of time.